Hey everybody, this is HD. Welcome back. This is going to be a special broadcast, and I also want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I hope everybody out there got the gift that they wanted, and of course everybody out there get the special little feeling that you get when you give a great gift to your friends or your loved ones. So I hope you guys all had a great Christmas. And this is going to be, I guess, a Christmas special broadcast. It is actually going to be myself playing, as you guys can see here, Pink Bunny. And so this, as you guys all know, is my alternate account that I play Protoss and Terran on. But I was actually on playing a couple ladder games, and then my good friend Donald, aka Dopa, messaged me and said, hey, you want to play some 1v1s? And so I actually decided to play Zerg. So this is going to be a Zerg versus Protoss. For you, all of you guys who have watched my channel for the last couple of months, you guys know that me and Dopa kind of have a little rivalry going on. We always play a lot of great games against each other, and the games are always epic. And this one is definitely epic. So hopefully you guys are tuned in and grab some popcorn, get ready. This is going to be a blast cast. And I'm super excited to be seeing this game once again and bringing it to you guys all out on YouTube. So it is going to be a Zerg versus Protoss. It is on Xel'Naga Caverns as well. Xel'Naga Caverns, kind of an interesting map. I think that this map is actually quite fair for all races, maybe a little bit favored in Protoss versus Zerg. But in general, I think this is a pretty balanced map, and I think that oftentimes Protoss players will, even though there's a large natural right here, a lot of times Protoss will actually go for a fast expo on this map, and Dopa is actually one of those players that loves to go for a fast expo build. So let's see if he's actually going to throw down a Nexus. Yeah, he is going to be throwing down a Nexus right here at his front door. And so this is actually a very bold opening, like I said. No doubt he's going to be getting that forge up right away so that he can get a couple of cannons up. And with proper building placement, any good Protoss player can block off this front area and then force units to kind of run around the back door. So it makes it very difficult for Zerglings or any kind of units to get around there and get around the backside. It looks like, oh man, I lose my drone right there. So a little bit of a bad micro in the beginning from me. But it looks like Dopa will be a little bit ahead with this opening, getting this Nexus out. And of course, for me, as a Zerg player, I actually don't like going for my hatchery until I have a pair of Zerglings out. And the real reason for that is because A, any Protoss player can easily block your expo with a pylon. And B, if you try to go for a fast hatchery, a lot of times that can be thwarted very easily if the Protoss player decides to just start spamming cannons next to the hatchery or even blocking off your ramp. So in my opinion, I don't think going for an early hatchery against Protoss is very viable. I don't think it's a very good build against Protoss. So we'll see what happens this game. It looks like I am going to be able to pick off that pylon and then immediately get my hatchery, the fast hatchery called the Fatchery. The Fatchery will be going down, and it looks like on the other side of the map, Donald Dopa will be preparing for a pretty long-term game himself. So it is going to be a pretty macro-style game. And back at my base, I am getting a Roach Warren. The reason why I like to get this Roach Warren actually is because in the early game you can get this Roach Warren and you can threaten a Roach bus against the Protoss player. You don't necessarily need to build Roaches, but it's nice to have the Roach Warren out. It scares the Protoss into building more cannons if he scouts it. And in case you need Roaches, you can always make them. And obviously Roaches are probably one of the core units. In my opinion, they are one of the core units versus Protoss. Now, as you guys might imagine, in this game, I'm already pretty far behind because Donald has gone for this fast Nexus, the F Nexus. He's gone for the fast Nexus, and it's 2 base versus 2 base, and I haven't even gotten my hatchery up yet, so I am quite far behind in terms of economy. So really, if you're in this position, you've got 2 things you can do, and I'm sure you guys have heard me say this again and again. If you're behind in economy and you're behind in the game, either you make an all-in attack with mass Roaches, or you try to out-macro your opponent and get a 3rd expo. And that's exactly what I decided to do this game. I've actually played against Dopa so much that I know that if I were to play 2 base to 2 base against him right now, when he attacks, I will 100% lose every single time. So it's absolutely crucial that I get this gold hatchery as soon as possible. And even though it's super risky, I'm counting on the fact that this Protoss player, Dopa, has gone for this early Nexus. He really doesn't even have Warp Gate yet. He won't be able to make an attack for about another, I would say, 1.5 to 2 minutes. So that'll give me just enough time to get a gold hatchery up and transfer as many workers as I can over to that gold, and then switch over all my production into roaches and speedlings. Also note that I actually do have speed already researched on that spawning pool, and roach speedling is really one of the best ways to deal with a mass warp gate attack off of 2 base. There's just not enough time to really get mutas out, and against a whole army of stalkers, mutas just really aren't that good against a 2 base player. So you really need roaches and lings, and once you can hold that off, maybe even go up to hydras. But in the early stage, roach ling is a very good way to deal with a 2 base mass gateway attack. Now it looks like really Donald right now is kind of going for that build. He's got the +1 weapons going. He's got, what is this, 5 warp gates already. So it is kind of like a 6 gate, maybe a 5 gate if he doesn't throw down another gateway. But for certain, there is going to be an attack once this +1 weapons is finished. So it's all going to come down to timing, and it's going to be a very, very close game, because if I can't get these gold minerals mining, and I can't get the income for this 3rd hatchery, and he attacks before I can get that up and running and I can get some army units out from it, then it's gonna actually be a pretty short game, and it's not going to be a very interesting fight. So you guys already kind of realize, I guess, that this is kind of a mixed cast. This is sort of like a broadcast. I'm broadcasting to. It's kind of like a pro game, but not really, because we're not super pro. At least I know I'm not, and it's kind of a daily ladder game at the same time as well. So yeah, it looks like Dopa is going to be making his attack here. He sees that I have the gold hatchery. He's actually attacking a little bit earlier than I expected, and luckily I just barely have enough lings and roaches to hold it off. But the Protoss player, with those proxy pylons out in the front of his base, he can warp in more stalkers, and this is where it gets really deadly. I actually don't have any income at all from this gold hatchery, and so I'm suffering huge losses in supply right now. You guys can see I'm at 83/62, and Donald right there just made a huge attack, killing off a ton of overlords. So I really haven't gotten any benefit from this gold hatchery. This is really 300 minerals at this point that could have been more attacking units, but I know that if I can get this gold hatchery, if I can secure it and defend it, and once I transfer my workers over, and it looks like I just got my worker transfer happening, that I can really start to shoot ahead of the Protoss player, Dopa. So I think right now, at this point, I do have the saturation going. If we look at the income tab, we can see my harvester count is just a little bit below the Protoss player, 42 under 49, and army tabs showing that I am actually just a little bit ahead in overall army count. So I do have a slightly larger army, but the mass stalker +1 weapons build is a very difficult strategy to defeat. Stalkers, when they're balled up, even if you have mass speedlings, it can be very, very difficult to deal with. It looks like Dopa gonna be making another attack. High pressure situation here. I have 16 speedlings on the way, and it's absolutely crucial that you get a good surround. But of course, Dopa already has the blink ready, and he is just blinking his stalkers back. Very, very nice micro right there, keeping his stalkers alive. And of course, with that pylon warping in more units, and I realized, you know, I gotta take out this proxy pylon. But unfortunately, a little too late on that, and the zealots have came in, and now I am actually in a lot of trouble as Dopa is continuing this onslaught. I have just a few more zerglings coming out. It looks like I'm gonna be barely able to push Dopa back from his attack, and it looks like I am going to be able to pick off these proxy pylons. Now that was actually a really, really close battle, guys, and I was actually on vent with him, and he was like, after that fight, he was like, wow, I can't believe you held that off. I don't think anybody has ever held that off. And we were talking about it after this game, and really at that part, it was all about having this gold hatchery, this gold income. It kicked in for only less than a minute, but that was all the difference I needed. I mean, I transferred almost all my workers from my natural over there, but it was just the difference I needed to outpump those mass +1 weapon stalkers, which are now actually +2, and it was just enough to get the edge over Dopa's timing attacks. So right now, the Protoss player Dopa, I think he realizes that, you know, in order to catch up or at least stay even, he's gonna need to get his own gold nexus up, possibly even go for the back nexus. And that's really what he's gonna have to get more income in order to face off against a 3-base Zerg. Obviously, it's time to get that auxiliary hatchery going, as I've got so much minerals. Here comes Dopa once again making another attack. He knows that he has the +1 weapon upgrade. He knows that he needs to make this attack count, and he can't allow me to get this gold expansion and get the income. But unfortunately, I already got that saturation going, have a bunch of roaches and lings coming out, and of course originally engaging on that creep helps so much against the Protoss player. And it looks like that attack was also meant so that Dopa could secure his own gold expansion, but I think he may have lost just a little too many stalkers. So my counter should be able to actually take out this gold nexus, and this is absolutely huge, taking out the gold expo. Now the Protoss player Dopa is way far behind because I've got 3 bases, and I just forced the cancel on the Protoss player's 3rd, and of course I have complete map control and a larger army. I'm gonna actually make a counter attack all the way into Dopa's main base here, and it looks like thanks to the Protoss player's blink, this is actually a really nice place for the Protoss to defend at. Obviously, with blink stalkers, if you're a Protoss, you can blink back, and with all these buildings in the front and all the cannons in the back, you can continually warp in more units and bring in more cannons, and it's really difficult to break that as a Zerg player. So it's just not cost effective. If you got the Roach army that I had, it's just not worth trying to bust down and break through these buildings, and instead it's probably smarter to try to go for another hatchery and just continue to out macro the Protoss player. And as you guys can see, taking out these back rocks, getting another expansion, and really this is the right choice. Instead of just throwing all my roaches into the Great Wall of China, which is never going to be broken, just go ahead and get another expansion going. Now it looks like on the production tab we do have a Dark Shrine on the way. As you guys can see right there, it just finished up, and this is really smart. Dark Shrine play in the mid game and late game, a lot of Protoss players don't use this against Zerg, and it's actually really effective because Zerg needs to get Overseers to deal with that, and in that time you can actually kill off a lot of drones, and 4 DTs can snipe out a hatchery before the Overseer gets morphed in time. So it's actually really smart. It looks like I'm gonna posture to make another attack, and the nice thing here is if you're the Zerg player and you've got this many roaches, you can just one-shot that Nexus so easily, and then you can easily fall back and you don't really suffer that many casualties. So it's really nice play. You can just take out the Nexus, keep the Protoss player on 2